everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Soil Talks. If in your first episode we traveled to the Mediterranean, today we are heading much further north in the Boreal region to explore something that we often overlook. The soil beneath of our cities is full of life and full of solutions. I am Andrés, coordinator of InBestSoil, a European project working to understand and give value to the ecosystem services provided by healthy soils. Today we land in Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania, where nearly 20% of the city is made up of green spaces. And within the city we focus on the Lighthouse 5, located in the Baltupiai district, a fascinating area where private gardens, parks, and different ways of interacting with nature coexist. And to guide us to it, we join us with Paulo Pereira, coordinator of LH5 and head of the Environmental Management Laboratory at Mykolas Romeris University. He's expert in soil science and land management with extensive experience in the ecosystem services, soil conservation, and the relationship between human activity and soil health. Welcome. How are you, Paulo?
Good afternoon. Well, Andrés, thank you very much for having me in this podcast. I'm very happy to share what we have been done and the experience that we have been here in Lighthouse 5 in Baltupiai. So it has been a kind of adventure implementing this thing here, integrating all the social, economical, and environmental issues. So I'm very happy to share what has been done and what we learned from the field work done here and interacting with the person. So this is always a factor that helped us to understand what is the importance of soil health in the urban environment.
Thanks, Paulo. To set to the stand, when you talk through Baltupiai, what makes it so special from a soil perspective?
Well, I think people here in urban areas, they have a long history of having urban gardens. This was a city that was not very much large, at least 50 years ago. There is a large number of individual houses, and all these individual houses, they have their own gardens. So people had always a very nice connection with the soil and what this can give. So from a point of view of home productions, soil has been an important issue to provide a certain number of service to the people. Another thing is that the soil here normally is very, very fertile because we have a very high amount of organic matter. So people here have used it intensively as far as they could during the short season that exists here. So I think that for me, is more the relation from people have with the soil and how they value it as a source of food production, especially because so far people do not value so much the other tangible services that the soil could give because they are not really depending on them. So it's majorly for food production.
Well, something interesting that has been happening in the recent years. Many of Baltupiai gardens have been replaced by lawns that is made like a small change. But what are we actually losing?
Well, the question of land use change is just, since if the soil is not damaged, it's just like they supply one service to another. So if they change from urban laws to urban gardens or vice versa, it's just a different of service that the soil is providing. Meanwhile, the soil is not sealed in urban areas. There is just a shift of the service that the soil is used. But in this case, and as it is in other urban areas, there is a big loss of lawns, especially because the lawns and these grass areas, they are quickly urbanized because there are areas that are not in use or don't have a very big value to the owners or to the municipality that facilitate the expansion of urban fabric on these soils. So one of the things that come to the center aspect of this project and living in Lighthouse 5 is the fact that how the value of these lawn soils can be imported in urban context. And the issue is that most of them are in very degraded and with a very intensive management. So the value from the ecosystem point of view is minimal. So the value of construction will be much more high than the value of the service that can offer. But it's a question that in many instances the municipality invests a lot of managing these soils and mowing the grass, and there isn't a problem that this is the driver that really degrades these soils. So it's a question for the authorities to know how to manage this in a better sense, because it's areas where people still go, even go walk the dog. But these soils are important, and it's important to not seal them as well, to give them another value, another use that is not urban fabric.
Well, and of course, we are in a region with a short growing season. What happens with the soil when everything has to be produced in just few of months?
Well, the soils actually in urban gardens are very intensive managed. But at the same time, the soils are fertile, and during the short window from spring to the end of the summer, the climate allows it to have a big production. So these soils are also composted, and they are all the materials that can increase the organic matter, and the fertility of the soil are put on the soil to increase the fertility, the production. So in this small window, there is several issues that needs to be considered. So the houses, the urban gardens, normally they have cultures outside and they have cultures inside greenhouses. So these greenhouses are also important for during this period to have tomatoes, cucumbers, and other kinds of vegetables, also potatoes, to produce them. And normally what people have here is like this ant perspective. So they produce in the summer to have in the winter, because the climate does not allow to have a production during the winter time. Of course, today is not the reality, but if you go back 30 or 40 years ago, this was the reality, because to have food at home. Another thing that needs to be highlighted is that the role of these composts on these urban gardens. Interesting that although people might think that they are increasing the soil fertility, we still don't know what is the composition of these composts. If they have a lot of heavy metals, if they have a lot of emergent pollutants, if they have microplastics, if they have antibiotics or other kind of pharmaceuticals, and what this goes to the soil. There is an increase of fertility, but we don't know what goes with it as well. So you have to question also that if this practice are really sustainable, if this practice really increase the soil health, or maybe you are just lacking information. So this is something that we really need to consider and go more deep in the research of urban gardens.
So in response to this, what is the main plan of InBestSoil in this lighthouse to help restore the damaged soils?
Well, the issue is that in the context of the InBestSoil, and what we see from the data that we have, the data that we produced during the project, is that at least knowing the variables that we have, urban gardens are soils that are okay, because they are composted, they are managed, they have a target, food production. The other soils, not so much. They are really damaged, and contrary to what we expected, even the soils of the park, they are not in good condition, because they are heavily managed by machinery as the lawn. So to remove the understory and the leaves during in the autumn or in the beginning of the spring, a set of tractors are circulating in these areas, that we have the sensation or the perception that these soils could be okay because vegetation is flourishing and so on, But no, these soils are heavy compacted. So this is, if you see this from the sky as a drone, you can see that this can be a healthy environment. But likely if you go to the ground, it's not so much true. So you have to be more cautious about the information that we use when we assess the soil's fertility or the soil health or vegetation quality, and because it's you have to be more critical on this. Yeah.
Well, let's move to the into science side of things. In this lighthouse, you are comparing different land uses: gardens, grasslands, parks, lawns. What methods are you using to actually measure the difference in soil health across these spaces?
Well, we InBestSoil used with the help, of course, with other colleagues. We have used laboratory methods, conventional methods that are more laborious. It's not so possible to take so much samples. So, but we have some idea about this. We try to invest in more easy methods or methods that you can collect more data, as using drones, or using try to have devices that can collect a large amount of data in the field to measure different properties, as the bulk density, as some simple parameters, pH, conductivity, some nutrients, that we can do it in the sensors to have a quick assessment of the soil condition or health. But most what we're doing here, we are moving very fast towards using of proximal methods, including drones. That this is easier because we can get a lot of information, and the time to collect it is not so big. Although it's very important that these measures have to be combined with field measures, as the ones that we took with the sensors in the field. The question of laboratory methods are challenging, because most of them are very expensive and they are prohibitive to collect so many samples, because the project will not have enough funds to cover this. So one thing of the future is how you can combine the measures of that we take in the field, using the sensors, taking in the lab, sending the samples, and with the drones, how we can optimize this and see how much these drone images can predict the soil conditions, which is challenging as well. It's an open door for research, but needs to be implemented, because using this, we are not so dependent of expensive laboratory methods that are not only money expensive, but also time expensive.
Well, it's fascinating that you are using drones. I know well during my experience in Lithuania. Based on what they're showing, are you seeing any difference between the private gardens and public parks?
Well, the difference is just visible, just almost in naked eye. Of course, you have to have some differences because of being more scientific approach. Mm-hmm. But you see the soil in the lawn and in the parks. They are some part of them are bare. Sometimes are very compacted. There are a few diversity of plants that can occupy these soils, which is also an indicator of the soil condition. In comparing with other kind of urban garden soils, they are not compacted. They are worked with a more sustainable way, because no machines are used. So people are working the soils by hand. So there is no physical deterioration of the soil. Might be chemical because of the compost, but this is another question. But in question of physical aspects, the soil is much more damaged in the lawns and in the urban gardens. So not going in the specifics of the science. So of course, this degradation of the soils have impacts very much on the availability of nutrients, or on microbiological activity, and so on. So from the physical status of the soils, we can infer that other properties are not okay, and this is confirmed by laboratory analysis. So one study that we did here a few years ago in the context of InBestSoil is that you assessed what is the bulk density and how this can predict the flood regulation with a penetrometer. So basically, we saw that the areas of the lawns were very damaged, and they have a lower capacity to sustain the flood. So, meaning that urban garden soil is always in a situation provide more services than a lawn or a soil that is in a park. Okay, the question is that one thing that you have to call attention does not mean the vegetation that the park is in bad condition or is sick or something. Just the soil managed is wrong. And this is something that, since we are studying here the soil, it's important to highlight that the soil managed may affect also vegetation status, something that we don't know at the moment.
You describe these gardens, the green spaces as cool islands in summer. But how does soil management affect the city microclimate in a place like Vilnius?
Well, as you told in the beginning of the talk, most of the city, about 20%, is corrected by vegetation. Okay, so the vegetation has the impact of cooling the environment. So if we compare urban fabric with the vegetation area, the evaporation is much higher. So it means that the cooling of the environment is much higher. The temperature is lower, the relative humidity is higher compared with urban fabric area. The thing that these areas have positive is that they can reduce the temperature in the areas that surrounded them. So it means that the buildings that are really near the parks or near these urban gardens, they still can benefit of this cooling effect. So from the point of view of the microclimate regulation, urban gardens and urban parks are really beneficial. We cannot say what is more or less, because we have done some research, but in our area there is always an additional factor, that is the presence of a lake, that is also affects the cooling of the area. So we could not differentiate what is the effect of the lake or effect of the urban gardens or the effect of the forest, because this is something that's still ongoing. So what we are doing here, and we are all doing this research, is to see, using a thermal drone, what is the expansion of these cooling areas, analyzing the surface temperature. So if it is they have a large area or a small area of impact, but normally this is just a rule of thumb, that if there is not so much building area and so on, urban fabric, the impact of a forest, or depends on the size, of course, can be until 100 to 200 meters in the surrounding area.
Mm-hmm. If we make it very concrete on that, have you found the significant difference in the services provided by a productive garden compared to the conventional intensive management?
Well, in terms of conventional, and we did not make a comparison between the urban gardens, that is conventional or not conventional. The comparison that we have done here is between different land uses. Okay, so what we saw is that, from the terms of several regulating ecosystem services, flood regulation, erosion regulation, food production, because of the management, and this will come the question of the management, that how important is urban areas. Is not more the question of the land use per se, is more important the question of the management. The management is a key issue that affects the supply of services and all this to the people. So we don't know, but for example, the urban gardens here, the management type is not so different, because they start to use the same concept. After the snow melting, they go to excavate the soil, and very softly. Then when the climate allows, they start to planting, and there is is almost a planet for every year, unless there is an extreme condition, an extreme weather condition. So the issue here is that in terms of management, people do not, for years or for generations, they did not change the management, So which so far has been very good for them. The issue is that this is what we see, or this is what we see. If a soil give more potatoes or give more carrots or give all this is okay from the yield point of view. But the question is that what goes on these products? And this is something that is challenging to address. And like people will be more aware if more research will be done about that.
Well, let's talk to the people. The science, this is a residential area. Citizen collaboration is essential. How have the gardeners in Baltupiai area have been involved, and what role does the Vilnius municipality play in this project?
Well, the Vilnius municipality, we have some contacts with them because they have interest on urban gardens. And they participated, I think, in a few meetings, although involve stakeholders. It is challenging as everywhere because they are overloaded or they don't have time, but still we could involve someone. But for us, more important was the people that do this and to understand what is the practice that they're doing. So in the context of the project, this is considering the analytic that we did. The practice in the urban garden might be having the correct one, because actually they take very good care of the soil. The people take good care of the soil. The question goes, what goes beyond this? What goes in the products? What is the quality of the products? And this is something that really needs to be addressed that we don't know. So I think that if I will speak with some kind of municipality authority and to have this position about the project and so on, I would say that the way that you're managing the areas that you are responsible is the one that is incorrect. Or the impacts that you have are the ones that are incorrect. Or how people is doing is correct because they have a better soil they have, more yield they have, more food they have, more money they can do, because some of the people, they take their products to the markets and they sell there. Okay, so in some cases, they are not only home consumption, others try to make some profit out of it. So that's why the main worry is to have a healthy soil. But what is not happening elsewhere in lawns, on the parks, because this just like use it for people to walk, not to take food.
Yeah, and how is important the maintenance of these productive urban gardens for our local food security?
Well, there is a concept that for a few years that came to us, is a question of circular economy to reduce the chains between the producer and the consumer and so on. This is important for them because first of all, they can have more food and they don't have to expend in food in the supermarket, the ones that are home consumption. And there is a tradition here that, for example, they marinate cucumbers, they marinate tomatoes, they dry fruits, and they have a lot of activities to have food in the winter. So if you see for disadvantaged people, this is a very good thing because of the fluctuations of the food prices. If they can have their home gardens, this is very positive for them. So in this context, this can be very valuable for the economy. So to have the soil has a very important value. So this can also, these urban gardens can also feed an economy, a small economy, for people that can also go to the markets and sell these products. So in the context of the urban gardens, the soil has a very important value. And what the people can take from the soil has important value, especially in times where the food price increase as we are now. The issue here is that how we can transmit to the authorities about the value of the soil in other places that they can manage, to help to tell the soil, if you have a good management of the soil, you have less contaminants that go to the water, if you have less floods, you can have a better vegetation condition, you can have a better microclimate regulation, and all this service. So the issue is that, and in the context of the urban areas, is how the soil can be seen as a value to improve the ecosystem service that people can perceive. Because people sometimes they just don't understand. They don't have some kind of malevolence on what they are doing, but you just kind of understand. And this is one of the outputs of this project is to bring to the people why you should value soils in lawns and in urban parks.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you have to give a direct technical recommendation to the local authorities on urban soil management, what will it be and what benefits will it bring?
Well, the first of all is stop not stop, but reduce the frequency of using tractors to manage these soils. And the benefits, of course, will be less compaction and more higher fertility of the soils, and more quality and more capacity to retain water and floods and all this. So this was the most important recommendation. In parallel to this, it will be important to tell them to not mow the grasses so frequently, for different reasons, because you don't have to invest so much money on this practice, but also you allow the soil to have better quality, because the vegetation can help to store more organic matter, humidity, and this will increase the soil quality. The issue is that, or the trade-off, if you can say, regarding this, is the fact that the people here have a problem with ticks, and they have afraid that ticks can be established in these environments, and this can provoke some kind of diseases during the spring and the summer. So the challenge here of mowing the grass less frequently is mostly because of the problem with the ticks, that people are not so keen to have it. Another issue is that about the perception, how people perceive a landscape that have a taller grass than a grass that is cutted. Visually, people prefer a place where there is arranged, okay? But this does not mean that this is benefit for the environment. So there is still a debate, because the perception of an ecosystem service and the real supply, they likely be different, and the perception is just a perception, not more than that.
Looking ahead, what are your next steps to consolidate this model of resilient urban land management?
Well, I don't know. I think we are starting to go in terra incognita in terms of research. And what I mean is that this project allows us to learn that we really need to get more data to have a better understanding, And I think that we need to, one of the issues that to be more credible, we have to have data, and a large amount of data to show really trends, impacts, and to find a different kind of solutions for the municipalities could implement with a certain degree of confidence. This is the issue. So when I told that we are entering terra incognita, is that with the project we understood that more things need to be assessed, and I go back to the question of the compost. But I also go that this drone research opened a very big door of opportunities to assess different things in urban areas that before could not be assessed, because you have a map, you have a monitoring, and all this data collection that is more feasible compared with using standard laboratory methods. It's a great opportunity. So one of the things that we like to do, and we are doing here in the lab, is to monitoring this urban areas using sensors, drones, and from here we can extract different information that can help a better urban management. So including now we are doing works about tree diversity. That's something that is very interesting to see, and how this can be related with the soil quality and so on. So we are entering using different methods. You are entering in some borders of the science that, in terms of urban management, will be important to provide new information for the decision makers.
Mm-hmm. Well, fascinating all kind of information that you provided for us. And to close, if you could give just in one piece of advice to someone that will have a small garden or green space at home, what will it be?
Well, I think that knowing what I know today, of course, because this comes always with the knowledge that we construct in the project, but also from another experience. The practice per se, I will continue that, taking good care of the soil, try to have a good level of organic matter, of moisture, try to, because irrigation here is not the problem. People do not irrigate so much the soils, actually, because the climate is wet enough to not, of course, we irrigate, but not in the extension of happening in drier areas as the Mediterranean. So it's not comparable. So what I would see, if I would see, I will more take care about which compost I'm using in my soils, and how this can affect the production, how can this affect the food quality, and this is something that the science can give good answers to help to make better choices in the future regarding what kind of amendments should be put in on the soil, including the prices of the feed as well.
Well, thank you so much, Paulo, for sharing this inspiring story of the Lighthouse 5 in the Baltupiai, and how science and nature can bring life back to the event, to the most damaged spaces. Thank you so much, Paulo.
Well, thank you so much, Andrés. It was a pleasure to share. Always a pleasure to share things with you, with a good friend, and also with other colleagues that are here. And just one thing to have light in the project is that it was more than giving answers, open more questions that we need in the future to be addressed.
Yes, thank you so much. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us doing the Soil Talks from the InBestSoil Project, InBestSoil Project podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode where we will discover more about European living soils and the people working to protect them. Thank you so much for listening us, and we meet in the next podcast.